Good morning. It's now 9 a.m. and I'll call the Sewage and Water Board Finance and Administration Committee meeting to order. Special counsel, please call the roll.
Director Howard.
Here.
Director Kennedy. Director Pacho.
Here.
Director Barnes. Here. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Okay, great. Then we'll proceed with our three action items. The first one is customer service and collection strategy update by Susanna Kirby, Chief of Customer Service.
Just to let the committee know, the presentations, we have a couple of guests, and Susanna Kirby, our Chief Customer Service Officer, is going to provide an update with us today. For Protiviti Government Services, Zach Unger, Sharon Chung, they're working with us on a bit of a data project with CSM Billing, so I kind of call them the data team. So they've been very helpful, worked with us the last few months, so we're going to hear from them after Susanna.
So I don't want to steal too much of their thunder, but I will provide some updates to the committee with relative to some of the things that we've discussed previously, and also how Protiviti has been integral in that research and help to move things along, and then I'll hand it over to them. So just some of the things I know we've talked about over the last several months. We have focused on smart meter delinquency, collections overall in general, and just general cleanup and tracking and making sure that we're prioritizing initiatives such as turnoffs, et cetera. So wanted to go over a little bit about where we're at in the timeline. We've talked about before about bringing on new resources, outside resources, to get them trained, help develop desk level procedures, and also pull the appropriate reporting for us to take action, specific when it comes to, again, smart meters and all the data around that. Protiviti, again, is going to share some of the work they've done to help us focus on that. And so for our timeline, I have been able to bring on 2 outside resources and pull some internal resources. They've all been trained. We have started the work to develop the processes. We've put some of the processes in place. We anticipate completion of the Protiviti data through the end of June on at least pieces of it. I'll share more of that on the next slide. So that's where we're at. So outside resources are in, they're trained, we're moving forward. So the current challenge that we do still have that I stress is a lot of what we do is manual, but again, we're working through that to streamline it with tracking.
When you say create a tiered level of management, what is the tier? What does that mean?
Yeah, so we are going to restructure some of customer service just to have people more like mid-level managers that can focus on day-to-day operations and tasks and getting it completed so that my directors can focus more on strategy. So
Okay, so
it's going to help us.
Is
internal.
Internal, okay.
The outside resources are truly dedicated to working through the work that Protiviti has done to ensure that we kind of don't fall into that hole again of outstanding accounts that should have been sent to collections, for example, turnoffs, things like that. So that's kind of the distinction. So again, not to take away from what Protiviti is going to report, but some of the work that we're working on internally that's been handed off to us are a lot of these inactive accounts that had open deposits that need to be applied so they can process through the system. Several active accounts were identified with certain criteria that requires action to process them through the system and transfer collections.
So is the first set something where we're returning things to customers, or are they being applied to bills?
So for the most part, they're being applied to bills. And once that deposit is applied to a bill, then the system will allow them to be sent to collections. But until that deposit's applied, that person can't be sent to collections. So it will be applied, and then if there is a balance remaining, it'll be sent to collections. So you can see there's several thousand accounts that we're working through to get through that, and this is the work that we anticipate to have done by the end of June. So with that being said, the hope would be that in the July, August financials that Gray reports, we should start seeing the impact to our account receivables based on this work. So that's the ultimate purpose, goal, is to see those numbers move. So that's why this work is important.
And require action means what?
So it can be several different buckets that they'll talk more about in their presentation, but it can be a shut-off that's needed. It can be just that we never transferred the customer to like a vacant status, so they're still showing active and kind of holding up the system, several things, so.
Susanna, on the former slide, did I see increased shut-offs? What does that mean?
Yes, so I'm working carefully with the GSO office and Gray to develop a short-term and long-term plan because it's going to require both for increased capacity for meter reading to increase shutoffs. So right now we have a certain number we can do each day. Part of the work is prioritizing, making sure we have the top ones that we want shut off during that time period, but then the longer term is how do we increase our staffing levels to increase the number of people so that we can increase that number. So that's the kind of the longer term plan.
I wanted to add just, I guess this highlights something we've talked about with the committee, and it's pretty well known, the CSM Cogsdale software, just the workflow within it doesn't have sort of the features and the usability, user-friendly nature to say, you know, these set of accounts are kind of in limbo or stuck at a certain stage. You need to take this action in the software. You have just accounts hanging out at different statuses. So this strike team work with Susanna Protiviti has been helpful to, as I said, have a data team to be able to zero in and get to the groups of accounts, you know, get the actions needed from a desk level, get those instructions, training the staff to be able to do it, and then have mid-management, mid-level people to make sure that people do what the action within the billing system itself.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it, Gray. And I think, you know, when I go to my very first or second slide, whatever you want to say it, my priorities, initiatives, where Protiviti was extremely helpful is in realizing that for us to really be 100% successful with moving forward with some of those initiatives, we have to do this cleanup, is what I call it, the best way to get to the customers that we need to be reaching out to.
But is this CSM is Cogsdale system?
Yes,
So
Yes.
we're getting rid of that?
yes, that's also
It's not worked for years.
a project to replace the CIS system. So that's also going on concurrently with IT, and
Yep.
right now we're focused on the smart metering implementation. So we know we're going to have Cogsdale CSM through smart metering, but the RFP document has already been drafted to go out to replace CSM, yes.
So that's what I had. So next, I'll hand it over to Protiviti.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susanna. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Zach Unger again. Nice to meet everybody. I do just want to start out by noting we deeply appreciate the work and the help we've had from Gray and Susanna. It's been a very nice working relationship, and I think we've been able to deliver some nice stuff here, partly because of the positive relationship we've had here. This first slide, just because this is our first presentation to this group, lays out the basic priorities, the work streams, and what we've been working on for the last several months. We've arranged the slide roughly sequentially, so you'll see on the left it starts with bill review. That was the starting point of our project. Then started working on the collections process, and finally into general process improvements. I'll talk about each of these individually for a moment, but then Sharon and I will, in the next couple slides, go into a little more detail on each. Starting up at the top, bill review. As I said, this was the starting point of our work. Effectively, what we were going for with this was to look through customer accounts and the summary of the open balances to start identifying what the indicators of potential billing issues were, effectively trying to get to a root cause of how we got into billing issues with certain customers. And the point of that is not to rehash the past, but to understand what happened so that we can come up with potential adjustment approaches and actions for handling these open balances. As promised, we will get into a little more detail on that on the next slide. On the middle line, the collections process, I will, just for the sake of transparency, point out that we do not conduct collections work on your behalf. We are not actually contacting your customers, but we did look at the process that accounts go through before and through the collection cycle. And Susanna actually gave a really nice intro that talks a bit about this. This effort was really focused on trying to get to the population, figure out what the group of accounts that should be in collections really looks like. And as part of that, we did discover a pretty considerable group of accounts that didn't get into collections at the right timing through the normal course of business. And that's been helpful from two perspectives. One, in actually getting those to actions to try and collect on them, but also starting to identify the I don't want to say loopholes, but the mechanisms that allowed them to get into different work streams. Finally, I mentioned process improvement throughout all of our projects like this. We always look at the process holistically and try and identify where we can be, as a group, where we can be more efficient, where we can help to make recommendations that the board can then implement and improve going forward. We'll give a summary of some of what we've heard and seen at the conclusion of this, but there is, as Susanna pointed out, more work over the next couple of weeks as we look to conclude this first piece of our effort. Okay, as promised, we're starting here with the bill review approach. In the upper half here, we've laid out the approach that we followed in this effort. So we started with a review of customer accounts as a way to identify trends. That was helpful, you can see in step 2, in identifying what kind of indicators there were that might point us in the direction of customers who've had some billing issue. Again, towards that root cause of how did we get to significant open balances. Step 3 and 4 were then to use those indicators to get to a broader understanding of what that population looks like. So effectively, if you're using a sample of customer accounts to find those indicators, then you apply those indicators to the population of open accounts to figure out what this bill review group really looks like. And then finally, step 4, we've worked largely with Gray and Susanna to identify potential adjustment opportunities or actions that we could take on some of these accounts to try and bring customers to the table and hopefully reduce these balances. Before we move on from here, I do want to talk a bit about some of the considerations at the bottom left. We've given both effectively the starting point for the considerations as well as where we landed. So you can see at the bottom left, we talked about consecutive estimated reads, a significant number of service orders, and those are, you can see in the top part of that lower left-hand corner, those are items we ended up moving away from, and where we landed was a criteria that's based on a higher number of estimated reads rather than actual meter reads over a short and long-term period. And then we have a population of service order requests or meter-related service order requests that, again, we think indicate an issue with the meters that points to billing issues. Any questions on this before we move on?
Zach,
Yes, sir.
All of this approach is pre-smart meter accounts? Or does it include some smart meter accounts?
That's a great question. The vast majority of this looks at manual meters, yes.
Okay.
So bottom right here, we did contemplate potential adjustments. This is all still in the works, but we are presenting some of these ideas. We're contemplating whether there is a mechanism where we can try and provide customers with some credit towards their accounts with the provision that they sign up for promise pay and start to reduce those balance. That is not something that's concluded on yet, and that's one of the things that we need to take out of this this stage of the work in order to start implementing and moving this forward. Okay. Sharon is going to take it from here to talk about the next work stream.
Yep, thanks, Zach. So I think both Susanna and Zach kind of led into what we were doing with collections. So as part of our bill review effort, we were going through our trend analysis. And as part of that, we were seeing customers not making recent payments. So we did a payment analysis specific to customers who are not exempt and meet the criteria of the collections process. So that's a balance of at least $50. And then the current process is to go through collections when the payment isn't within 60 days. We gave a pretty generous timeline for that, and at that point used June 30th as a cutoff. So as you see here on the right, kind of brings out the proposed recommendations that we made that ultimately led to some of the recent hirings and shifts in priorities on the customer service side to action on these. So the first being truly accounts that are needing to continue or start the collections process. So that'd be turning off meter, removing the meter if it is a mechanical meter, and then ultimately sending to collections. Also through this, we did identify accounts that just needed maintenance. So turning on if we did see a recent payment, continuing through some of the age service orders. So there were some maintenance related actions. And then the no action needed is that they're continuing through the collections process, or they've become an inactive customer, or became a smart meter, allowing for some window to come by in order for the collections process to kick in. The left side kind of summarizes, so that the top table shows the breakdown of customers as part of the population that we've identified that haven't made payment, non-exempt, and then the table right below it summarizes those proposed recommendations that we've made. The one item on here that is not in the category is the bill review ones, just given there's some overlap from the criteria we mentioned in the first slide, given that we're going through potential adjustment or a recommendation for those accounts, we wouldn't want to continue going through the collections analysis there. So that's one that will work in tandem for those two work streams together.
The number of smart meter accounts is almost the same as the number of manual meter accounts. Is that because the delinquency started before the smart meters went in, or is this a new, just a continuing?
Typically was existing with a mechanical meter, yes.
Yeah, so if you think, remember back, we started billing smart meters the end of April of 2024. So the large portion of those customers were delinquent at that 60 days well before, because that would have been the 60 days.
Okay.
But now they have a smart meter.
The only other thing I would add too is that this was a point of time analysis. So with the effort of continuing to convert to smart meters, that number's probably significantly increased on the smart meter end.
And we will we'll actually talk about this. We're jumping ahead a little, but one of the things that we do want to do on this is a regular refresh on this data. As Sharon just mentioned, it is point in time just because getting to the right, I'm sure you've heard a lot about reporting and data in previous meetings, but getting to the right data source is not the easiest process. So we do this periodically. As it is point in time, we do want to refresh and see if there's, what the data looks like at different points in time.
Are we able to break down between smart meter customers who become delinquent while they're smart meter customers versus the carryover ones? Because that's
I don't think so, right?
kind of a
Yeah.
trend line that would be.
Yeah, that's what they're helping with, to kind of separate it, but I mean, by the end of August, it's going to be virtually all customers are now smart meter, but everyone has history too. So it blends together, but we would view the two periods of time sort of differently.
Yeah, I mean, but from our point of view, if you want to see whether smart meters are working or not in terms of billing, you'd have to know who became delinquent after they got a smart meter versus someone who's just carrying on their aggravation with the sewage and water board from the mechanical meters.
Yeah, so we're able to zero in on that. That's right.
And I also recall that there was, we were encouraging people, even if they were delinquent, to just start paying their smart meter bill. And so that's another kind of filter also, because they're paying and they're current sort of, but they have sort of that.
Yeah, current
I just
after a
remember
point in
that coming
time
up in
and,
discussion.
yeah.
So it just feels like there are different categories.
Yeah, but I think what we see, this is not a data type of answer, but the consumer behavior is the habit, and that habit's hard to break. So it's going to take some concerted efforts, and part of the reason we're looking at this is to say, well, to get somebody to the table for a promise, say, for a payment plan, you know, if you avoid your penalties, you know, if you put some carrot, you put something out there, more will come, I think. That's what we've talked about with Protiviti.
So this slide kind of highlights some of the themes that we're seeing as far as our process improvement work stream. So as we're continuing on and getting close to wrapping up on this current phase of work, we're looking to formalize and provide more detailed recommendations. But these kind of outline some themes that you probably have heard before, but we did want to kind of highlight the resources, the systems that we've seen during our time here at the board. A lot of, I think Susanna highlighted, everything's really manual here, and the system lacks field controls where you could easily, you know, fat finger and miss some updates, which is actually some of the reasons why we had those accounts identified in collections. Reporting has been a pain point here. We have standardized reports that the CSM has provided, but the custom reports that, you know, that made the project more of a challenge of discovering what can we use, a lot of testing on the accuracy of what is coming out of the system.
I should add on this one, it's not only a challenge for our project, it's a challenge in managing these accounts through day-to-day operations, which is more impactful on the board than on us.
Next is the limited bandwidth at the team. So I think even just talking through collections kind of highlights this, the onboarding of new resources and competing with different priorities. One of our goals is to really help the board with providing at least some level of tools like procedures to support this particular challenge. And then the last piece is really highlighting the maturity of processes, making sure that things are able to be executed consistently, implementing detective reviews, since like the collections effort truly was a detective review that we did that we're hoping to embed within the process and as the process matures.
Finally, we're on to our next steps here. We've talked a bit about the left side of this, but over the next couple of weeks, we want to conclude those recommendations that we've been working on with Gray, Susanna, and the team on the 3 topics we have been discussing: collections, billing, and then we've talked a bit about reporting in that last slide in particular. Going forward, though, we think there's still a considerable amount of effort required to take this to the next level. Gray has talked a couple times about this being a data exercise. There's a lot of effort that's going to be needed to implement the recommendations coming out of this and actually take some steps to really reduce the kind of numbers we're working on. We've laid out the basic steps here that are included in that, but start off with a holistic project plan for how we're going to execute this. That would include both responsibilities for the board and for our team. A big component of this, we've talked a bit about, Susanna mentioned manual processes. a considerable component of this is taking those manual efforts, some of which are really good processes, but are, we're relying on an individual knowing what those are. So formalizing those, documenting those, and then coming up with a transition and training plan so that the internal staff can operate in a consistent and well-controlled manner. And then finally, where needed, fill in and help to support the day-to-day operations, as well as these data and reporting needs where they come up. So that brings us to the end of our prepared remarks. If there's any questions for us, I'm certainly happy to take them. Yes, ma'am.
This is all based, implement and transition is based on the current system we have in place?
Question. So it would certainly depend on how long the board would like support on. The process side of this is on dealing with the situation we're in right now. So yes, it would be under the current system. We're happy to help under the future system too, but there's a limitation to how much help we can provide on that until it's implemented.
Sure. Okay. All right. Any questions? Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Okay, will you now give us the financial summary?
Yeah, and just to add on the Protiviti, I think we get a lot of benefit in reminding the committee of the scope of the past due customers. About 25,000 has been relatively flat, but the promise pay this month is like 14,000. So that number, adding that tool in February 24 and having that kind of user-friendly tool has upped the numbers. So that gives us 11,000 that, we have this outreach, we have these penalty waivers. We've done a program like that before. So I think we're trending, going the right direction, but it is, a journey. So just continue with those efforts. But yeah, so here in March, I'd like to just maybe highlight a few brief comments and not go through all the normal charts and graphs. But as we were looking at March and where we focus right now, the finance team and the audit, accounting team is very much in the depth of the fiscal 24 annual audit. So this time, hopefully by this time next month, we'll be wrapped up because that's due June 30th to the LLA. So we're busy with that. As we've talked about previous meetings, the monthly revenue has been a very focused target because we're trailing budget. The March number of 17.4 million was like very low, 5 million below. April got the numbers ahead. We'll have those next month, but it was 27.6, so it was like 5 million over. So we're seeing some volatility in revenue, and been meeting with Susanna and Steve regularly. So that it's tied to the number of bills issued. For the month of March, we issued 119,000 bills. For the month of April, it's 162,000. So as we look at May and looking forward, we're trying to kind of get more of a recurring schedule where it should be closer to the 45,000 accounts, meters. But depending on the cycles, the number of days in the business days a month, how we're processing, is what's driving either you did more or less, and then it kind of makes up the following month. So far in May, we'll check kind of mid-month, but we're hoping to get back to where we're around 140,000 bills issued, and that would smooth out the revenue for the month. But we are still trailing our budgeted numbers, so watching that very closely. For operating expenses for March, we had 19.4 million. That was less than our conservatively set budget. We're trailing budget by quite a bit, 33.9 million. So yeah, right now, again, we're focused on the audit, focused on these billing and smart metering projects, and just trying to take the next steps with each of these initiatives. Susanna's piece with the customer service and some additional strike team members has really been helpful to move the needle. So happy to answer any other questions about March, but that's all the kind of prepared remarks I had.
Any questions?
Great. What's the total uncollected amount?
At the end of March, there's a 65 million in our past due categories. So it's pretty flat. So we see the monthly promise pay collections about $1 million a month. So that's helping keep it flat and not get further behind. But again, customers getting billed every single month. So haven't seen as much decrease in that balance, but I mean, the good news is that we have cleaner data. We can have more consistent, our actual reads, in the month was like 155,000 out of the 162,000 bills, all actual reads. So we're in a much better position data-wise on that, so.
So great, if our collections are coming in below, I mean, if our revenues are coming in below budgeted, that's just what we bill for without taking into account non-payments, right?
Right, accrual-based revenue, billed revenue. Collections for the month I should have highlighted were 20.5 million in March, April 21.6 up, 21.6 million. So we did get our best of the 4 months in this past month of April. Cash collections about 21.6. So it's happy to see that, but on average, our target is about 21.9 million collections. So
So do we know, are we over budgeted, or have people changed their behaviors, are people leaving town? Do we know what's going on?
that's what we're focused on, looking into the different drivers. But yeah, right now it's a little early to tell, but we're trying to look at all the different drivers and particularly the number of bills issued in the month. If we can get that number more level, that'll help with the data analysis. So we'll be coming back to the F&A committee, more information on that. So.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
or no, are you starting?
What's that?
Are you finished or starting? All right. Then we'll now proceed with our one action item individually, followed by 12 general superintendent's resolutions. The first is Resolution R-075-2025, Amendment Number 2 to Agreement for Armed Security Guards at Board Facilities for Renewal. Siobhan Lane.
Yes. Good morning. I'm here.
So please proceed with that.
Good morning. I'm here to to present the security guard company, the contract. This contract has been in place for 3 years now, and we are up for our first year renewal. It's the first year out of 2 years. This current contract has been satisfactory, and we would like to renew it for another year.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve Resolution R-075-2025? So moved. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Stephen Nelson will present the general superintendent's recommendations. Steve?
Very well, thank you all. After a couple of light months, we are back to heavier agendas, so progress continues. The first, we have one contract award. This is in fact a renewal. This is the second renewal of contract 30246. This is for the restoration of gravity flow sanitary sewer mains by point repairs at various sites throughout Orleans Parish between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Wallace C. Drennan. The original contract and then each of the renewals was in the amount of $3.4 million. We did have one change order for $750,000 to provide in-kind drainage pipe repairs after taking over the small diameter drainage system in January. The contractor has a DBE goal of 36%. They have achieved 20.5%. Most of that is related to paving repairs. They haven't had as many pavement repairs associated with the sewer repairs as projected. Are there any questions on the renewal?
Okay.
Very
May
well.
I-
Yep.
Wait a minute, this one is separate, right?
Yes, because
Okay.
it's only one contract renewal. So
May
we-
I have a motion to approve contract award renewal Resolution R-051-2025?
So moved.
Any discussion? Public comment?
None, Chair.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Very good. We have two contract amendments. Both of these are related to FEMA-funded work under the JIRR program. The first is Resolution R050-2025. This is an authorization of Amendment Number 13 to the agreement between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Arcadis US. This is for the design and engineering services for the waterline replacement program, as I mentioned, under the FEMA-funded JIRR program. These increases and extensions are related to the size of the program increasing, the scope increasing, and again, should be covered by FEMA reimbursements. The DBE participation goal is 35%. The actual completed was 56.3%. The second is contract amendment Resolution R068-2025. This is an authorization for Amendment Number 10 to the agreement between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Integrated Logistical Support, Inc. for the design and engineering services for the waterline replacement program. As with the previous contract, this is related to the JIRR FEMA-funded program. Again, this has been an ongoing, long-standing program. This project had a 0% DBE participation goal and has an actual achieved of 16.0%. Are there any questions on these two amendments?
Should be or will be paid by FEMA.
Should be paid by FEMA. I don't believe there's any question or concern about that at this point.
All right, may I have a motion to approve contract amendments resolution R-050-2025 and R-068-2025?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we have 7 contract change orders by ratification. The first is Resolution R052-2025. This is a ratification of change order number 1 for contract 2165. This is related to the project TM011. This is a FEMA-funded program, the construction side of it. The previous amendments were related to design. This is for construction of the project on Claiborne Avenue that finished up after the Super Bowl and around Mardi Gras of this last year. This is the first of what will probably be 2 change orders. We should have one final small change order to reconcile costs. This change order will add $605,652.55, representing 5% of the contract total. They have a DBE participation goal of 33.9%. They have achieved 33.01%. The next change order is Resolution R063-2025. This is a ratification of change order number 4 for contract 30228. This is part of the Mid-City Basin number 2 sewer rehabilitation between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Fleming Construction LLC. This change order and the next handful are related to the SERP program work. The consent decree ends in October. This is funding that is primarily through our WIFIA loan program. This change order is in the, it's deductive. It's in the amount of deduction of $509,367.59. The DBE participation goal at bid was 37.76%. They have achieved 26.37%. Most of that is related to the Concrete Services, Inc. And paving, but we can follow up with them on the shortfall on that change order. The next is Resolution R064-2025. This is a ratification of change order number 3 for contract 30233 for the Carrollton Basin number 4 sewer rehabilitation between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Hard Rock Construction LLC. This is a change order in the amount of $2,331,639.49. This represents an 11.7% change over the overall contract value. And this is related to full main line replacements, house connections, and full-length CIPP lining, additional repairs discovered during the scope of construction. The contractor has a 36.01% goal. They have achieved 20.5% thus far, and most of that is most likely due to the earlier stage of the construction. When we get to paving, I believe that should rise. The next is change order number 2. This is Resolution R066 2025. This is a ratification of change order number 2 for contract 30255. This is in the Carrollton Basin, number 14. This is also sewer rehabilitation work between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Fleming Construction Company, LLC. This is related to, let's see, let me make sure I'm on the same page here. Can we go to the next page? All right, this is a change order in the amount of $1.371 million in the order of 17.78% of the original contract value. And let me check my DBE numbers on this, make sure I'm on the right page here. Thank you. Got it. All right. DBE DBE participation set at construction was 36.17%. They've achieved 21.28%. Again, they have not gotten to restoration, so my understanding would be that as we get paving done, they would be able to achieve a higher DBE percentage. The next is ratification of change order number 2 on contract 30256. This is resolution R067-2025. That is for the Carrollton Basin number 15 between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Hard Rock Construction, LLC. This is a change order in the amount of $860,312.49, representing an increase of 12.2% of the overall contract value, again related to additional work discovered during construction for full-length CIPP lining, service lateral replacements, and full mainline replacements. This contractor had a 36.02% DBE participation goal, and it is currently at 24.7%, and again, should increase as paving is completed later on in the job. The last change order is resolution R070-2025. This is a ratification of change order number 4 for contract 1420. This is the Power Complex Phase 1 equipment and installation and commissioning contract between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Frischhertz Barnes, a joint venture. This is a contract change order in the amount of $274,567, representing a 0.08% change in the overall contract value. The DBE participation goal was set at 30%. It was adjusted to 13.8% at bid. That was what was submitted. The contractor has to date completed 21%, but I do anticipate that that will likely drop as more specialty contractors are brought online. Are there any questions related to the change orders?
May I have a motion to approve contract change order by ratification resolutions R-052-2025, R-063-2025, R-064-2025, R-065-2025, and R-066-2025, R-067-2025, and 070-2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we do have 2 final acceptances. The first is resolution R071-2025. This is for the final acceptance of contract 30228, Mid-City Basin number 2 sewer rehabilitation between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Fleming Construction Group, LLC. And the second is resolution R072-2025. This is final acceptance of contracts 30236 in the Carrollton Basin number 6 for sewer rehabilitation work between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and BLD Services, LLC. Any questions?
Another one? That's it?
That's it. Just those 2 finals.
May I have a motion to approve final acceptance resolutions R-071-2025 and R-072-2025?
Second.
Any discussion? Public comment?
No public comment, Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I bring one item for discussion. Or, they're legal,
Okay, is it not for a vote or anything?
not for a vote or anything,
Okay.
just an informational item.
Yes.
Okay, there is the possibility that there will be a final acceptance for contract 1415. This is the utility rack installation.
Foundation.
I'm sorry, the foundations for the power complex project at the final board meeting. We've had a number of submittals of that at F&A committees. The contractor has or will have completed all of their punch list items by that time, so it's possible that could show up before the full board, but I wanted to bring that up prior to getting to that place.
And Steve, could you also just add the caveat that it was brought before the F&A committee a couple of months ago?
Previously, yes.
Approved for that, delayed during the board of directors meeting itself for a couple of items, and then bringing it back to the board of directors. That's the
Correct.
bottom line, right?
So it has been previously reviewed, we just wanted to be sure. the
Reviewed and
contractor- Yep,
reviewed and approved by the F&A committee a couple months ago.
Correct,
And deferred at the board
and
meeting.
deferred. at
Deferred to the board meeting.
So when we, yeah, so when we come to the board meeting in May, you'll give that whole
That's correct.
summary and description. Yes.
Correct.
Same numbers, though.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Add that caveat.
All right.
Thank you, Ron.
We have 4 information items for committee members to review. Are there any public comments? Council?
No public comments, Chair, but I'd like to mention that, I'll note for the record that Director Scholas is in attendance at the Finance Administration Committee meeting, although he's not on the committee.
If there are no other matters, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Do you want to stay?
One question.
Okay.
Steve, at some point, can you provide the process that's used in terms of the change or the request coming from the various companies that discover additional work that needs to be done that was not discovered in the initial scope of work, or was not identified?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to get a handle on what that process is.
Yep.
Who looks at it, who reviews it, who makes the final determination, who validates its correct.
Yeah, absolutely. We can have a presentation at that, at the next F&A committee meeting, just the life cycle of a change order. Because by the time I get a change order and it's approved and brought before the board, an engineer of record has had to review it. It's been reviewed by a project manager. Costs have been vetted. And we make sure that we validate all those things. But I would be happy to provide a presentation on that.
Have we done any analysis of what's going wrong, if anything's going wrong in the spec process? Because, I mean, some of these are, there's one example from this meeting I kind of like to have you walk through when we do this.
Sure, absolutely.
We can do that. I know. I know exactly which one it was. But we can definitely walk you through that. And I guess my comment is specifically with the SURE projects. I did review them, and because of our, as Steve indicated earlier, with SURE and our timeline, we're on with the consent decree to make sure we meet that timeline. There were some additional work added to that because of our consent decree requirement, but he can definitely go through that on the next. Yep. And I know exactly which one you're referring to.
All right. Did we do the motion to adjourn? Oh, well, no, we didn't. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, no. Motion carries. We're now adjourned.